The man carried Teresa to her room, the woman hugging Alfonso tightly as she cried, complaining about how difficult it was for her leg to heal. The house was quiet as the beauty salon employees didn't live there, so the man could only provide more motivation not to give up. Because Teresa's mind was mischievous and couldn't stand the sight of Alfonso, the idea came into Teresa's head to ask a driver to do something despicable. The reason was to prove whether it was true that in this paralyzed condition, her bed game was no longer powerful. How could her husband complain? So rather forcefully, she pulled Alfonso's body onto the mattress and undressed him while whispering, "Help me test, is it true that you are no longer passionate?" And the male driver agreed. In fact, they did it 3 times in the following days under Teresa's coercion. Hey there, welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into another shocking true story from around the world. This time, we're heading to Calbayog City in the Philippines. It's a jaw-dropping tale involving a scandalous affair between a boss's mother and her young, good-looking personal driver. Sounds wild, right? Well, stick around as we break down the full story. Let's get into it. Before we dive into the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And hey, share this story with your friends so they can join in on the drama too. Now, let's get into it. So here's the story. There was a woman named Teresa, born in 1973, who used to work as a singer at a karaoke bar in the Kataman area. After a while, she moved to Calbayog City, Philippines, after getting married. But her life took a tragic turn in 2017 when her husband passed away in an accident. She wasn't one to give up though. Teresa opened her own salon business, and through that, she started meeting a lot of influential people. Officials, partygoers, you name it. As time passed, she got close to some of these men, but not in the way they might have hoped. Teresa wasn't the type to just fall for anyone. Even though many of her friends were happy to get involved with these powerful men, Teresa wasn't interested in just any casual fling. She wanted something real. She dreamed of finding one serious man, someone who would marry her and make her his legal wife. In January 2019, Teresa met Enrique, a 67-year-old man who was involved in the local political scene and was also a land businessman in the Tarangnan area. They met during a political event in Calbayog, thanks to a mutual friend. Every time Enrique came into town, he'd stay at Teresa's place, and they hit it off. He wasn't shy about showing her a good time, showering her with money, and the two of them seemed like a perfect match. Now, Enrique did have a wife and kids in Tacloban City, but their marriage wasn't exactly blissful. His wife was more focused on caring for their grandkids than taking care of him. So Enrique, feeling neglected, found someone who would give him the attention he craved, Teresa. He wanted to marry her, but since he was part of a political party that didn't allow divorced members, he suggested a Siri marriage, which is an informal marriage. That way, he could still be with Teresa without making his divorce official. After some time thinking it over, Teresa agreed. They tied the knot in June 2019, with Enrique's younger brother Miguel standing in as the witness. Of course, Enrique's wife and kids had no idea about this. After the wedding, Teresa remodeled her modest home, making it bigger, and Enrique started sending her money regularly. Despite the occasional gossip from the neighbors, Teresa was content. She had money, her salon was doing great, and she didn't have to worry about much else. But because Enrique was rarely around, he eventually told his brother Miguel to move into Calbayog to keep an eye on Teresa. He didn't want her to get tempted by other men, especially since she was so beautiful. Miguel was given a house to rent, and his monthly salary was covered by Enrique. Teresa didn't love the idea of someone constantly watching her, but she wasn't upset about it. As long as her money kept coming in and her business was running smoothly, she could live with it. After all, she wasn't messing around with anyone else. At first, Miguel asked his brother to buy him a motorcycle, but Enrique told him to get a car instead, since he had a few unused ones at home. Miguel picked out a sedan from Tacloban City, and it quickly became his mode of transportation all around Calbayog, including keeping a close eye on his brother's wife, Teresa. Over time, Miguel found himself spending more and more time at his sister-in-law Teresa's salon. Besides the free meals, the place was cool, and let's face it, the girls hanging out there were pretty easy on the eyes. He'd stick around until late, sometimes even staying until midnight before heading back to his rented place. The more time he spent there, the more attracted he became to Teresa. She was soft, smelled amazing, and had these perfectly red lips. Eventually, Miguel started tagging along with her on little trips, whether it was to the market, the mall, or a cafe to just hang out. By October 2019, Miguel's feelings had gotten more intense. He tried to push things further with his sister-in-law, but Teresa turned him down. Not the type to give up easily, Miguel kept pressing and even tried to get her drunk to see if she'd change her mind. But again, Teresa refused. That led to a pretty heated argument in the car on the way home. The tension between them got so bad that they ended up having a physical fight. Miguel wasn't happy with the rejection, and things got even worse when they got into a car accident. Both of them ended up in the hospital for a month. Miguel recovered pretty quickly and was sent back home to Tacloban City by his brother, Enrique. But Teresa wasn't so lucky. She was left with one of her legs paralyzed, which was a huge blow for her. But Teresa wasn't one to give up easily. Even with her handicap, she kept running her salon with the help of an employee. At first, she used a cane to get around, but as time went on, it became too exhausting. She asked her husband, Enrique, to buy her a wheelchair, which he did. Despite the setback, she continued to live life as best as she could. Enrique still visited, and his financial support kept coming in because Teresa still fulfilled his needs, even though things weren't quite as wild as before. Everything seemed to be going on as normal until April 2020 when the pandemic hit. Teresa's leg started feeling worse, and soon, her other leg was also giving her trouble. She stopped going to therapy because she was afraid of catching the virus at the hospital, so she put it all on hold. It wasn't until December 2020 that she finally got the courage to go back to the hospital for treatment. But with everything getting harder for her to manage on her own, Enrique sent a driver to help. Starting in February 2021, a 37-year-old man named Alfonso became Teresa's personal driver. He rented a house close to her salon and started taking her to her appointments and other errands. Now, a little backstory on Alfonso. He was married with a 4-year-old kid. He had worked as a steward when he was younger, then became a technician, but he lost his job during the pandemic. Even after things started recovering, he still struggled to find steady work. That's when he accepted the job as Teresa's driver under Enrique's direction. He was only allowed to go back home to Tacloban twice a month to visit his family. Alfonso's main job was to take Teresa to therapy, run errands, and handle other daily tasks. But as time went on, it was clear that Teresa's condition wasn't improving much. This started to affect her relationship with Enrique, especially in the bedroom. Enrique began to complain that things weren't as exciting as they used to be. Their intimacy, which used to happen 4 times a month, had dropped to just once a month. He even reduced her shopping allowance. Meanwhile, Alfonso's salary stayed the same, which was a small consolation for him. Enrique even warned Teresa that if things didn't change, he might start looking for another woman. By June 2021, Mr. Enrique still hadn't shown up. Teresa, feeling the distance between them, began to open up to Alfonso, her personal driver. She was afraid that one day she'd be left all alone. But Alfonso, always calm and encouraging, reassured her. He said that as long as she kept up with her physiotherapy, she'd get back to her healthy and strong self. Teresa liked hearing that. His words were soothing, and he always seemed so positive. Alfonso's steady attitude was a breath of fresh air, especially compared to her husband, who had become distant and focused only on making money. Not to mention, Alfonso was in great shape, always working out, while Enrique was pretty dull and hardly showed any interest in anything beyond business. Teresa felt herself slowly warming up to Alfonso. While they respected each other's space, there was this undeniable chemistry. They both caught themselves stealing glances, wishing they could kiss. Then, one night in early July 2021, after another exhausting physiotherapy session, Teresa was carried back to her room by Alfonso. She hugged him tightly, overwhelmed with emotion and frustration about her recovery. The house was quiet. The salon employees weren't around. Teresa felt vulnerable and emotionally drained, and Alfonso, ever the patient listener, offered words of encouragement. But that night, something inside Teresa changed. A risky thought crossed her mind, something she couldn't shake. She wondered if her husband's complaints about her lack of bed performance were true, if she still had it in her. So, driven by the need to prove something to herself, Teresa pulled Alfonso closer, guiding him onto the mattress and slowly taking off his shirt. She whispered, "Help me test this. Is it really not exciting anymore?" Alfonso, surprisingly, didn't pull away. They ended up being intimate 3 times over the next few days, under Teresa's subtle pressure. Then, on July 12, 2021, Alfonso suddenly disappeared. His phone was off, he didn't show up at his rented house, and his car was nowhere to be found. Teresa immediately called her husband, worried and confused. That's when things really hit the fan. Mr. Enrique went absolutely berserk when he found out. He told her that Alfonso had quit, blaming Teresa for forcing him into what he called despicable acts. Enrique was furious, accusing her of ruining everything. He even told her he was planning on divorcing her. "You're sick, you're not as satisfying as before, and you're too insecure," he said. Teresa, completely shocked, denied everything. She screamed that it wasn't her fault and that it was actually Alfonso who had seduced her first. The very next day, July 13, 2021, Enrique came to confront Teresa about their relationship. He said he was ready to separate, and it seemed like he was already planning on it. After all, he had been unhappy for a while, and Teresa's behavior had pushed him further away. But Teresa, now furious, told him she was fine with the separation, as long as he continued to send her monthly money. Enrique reluctantly agreed, but things quickly escalated when the amount Teresa demanded was far too high. In a moment of uncontrollable rage, Teresa grabbed a knife from the kitchen and attacked her husband while he was in the bathroom. He was caught off guard, and the salon employees rushed to help. Luckily, Enrique survived, though he was in critical condition at the Calbayog City General Hospital. Teresa was arrested for the attack. Meanwhile, the news shocked Enrique's first wife Adela, who came to Calbayog to confront her husband about his young wife. A heated argument broke out between Adela and Teresa, with Teresa even yelling at Enrique. The police had to step in to calm things down. Enrique, now fully aware of the situation, apologized and confirmed that they were in the process of separating. And then, the truth came out. The real reason for Teresa's accident had been her desire to get close to her brother-in-law Miguel. However, Teresa couldn't press charges because there was no solid evidence to back up her claims. The lawyer explained that his client, Teresa, was emotionally distraught when her husband demanded a divorce while she was paralyzed. On top of that, her monthly income was barely enough to cover her medical expenses and day-to-day living costs. She argued that none of this would have happened if it hadn't been for Enrique's brother, Miguel. If he hadn't been sent there to spy on her, the accident never would have occurred. At the trial, Alfonso finally stepped forward and accused Teresa of forcing him into doing things he never wanted to do. According to him, the first time he gave in was out of pity, just to help her prove if she could still be desirable even after becoming paralyzed. But the second and third times, it was all because Teresa threatened to get him fired if he didn't comply with her demands. Feeling cornered, Alfonso had no choice but to go along with it. But when Teresa tried to make him do it a fourth time, he'd had enough. He ran back to his wife and children and decided to come clean to Mr. Enrique about everything. Although Teresa denied all the accusations, it turned out that Alfonso had recorded their conversations, on his phone, where she invited him to bed. This evidence left Teresa in a tough spot and only added more weight to the case against her. In the end, on February 14, 2022, the judge at the Calbayog Regional High Court found Teresa guilty of assault and battery. The 47-year-old was sentenced to 13 years in prison, but would still be allowed to attend physiotherapy sessions while incarcerated. In April 2022, Teresa was officially divorced from Mr. Enrique, while both he and his brother Miguel were cleared of all charges. What lessons can we learn from this story?